Water. It is a natural and integral part of our lives. We depend on it for the food and water we need to survive, as well as the luxuries we take for granted. It is everywhere, and incredibly important to the way we live our lives. Who doesn't love the water? Wait, a swamp? Why would a swamp be important? According to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, a wetland is an area that is inundated or saturated by surface water or groundwater, with vegetation adapted for life under those soil conditions. They appear everywhere, from tundra climates to the tropics, and on every continent except Antarctica.
The four basic types of wetland are defined by the type of vegetation that grows in it. A swamp is known for its woody plants, while a marsh is dominated by reeds, rushes, and grasses, and often serves as a transition from a lake or river to the land. A bog accumulates peat, decaying vegetation, and moss. Finally, a fen has water with high levels of mineral deposits and contains grasses and sedges.
These wetlands serve a number of services to our community and the environment. Runoff from both urban and rural areas carry toxins, sediment, and other pollutants like heavy metals that the wetlands filter out due to their slow-moving pace. The runoff waters can also prevent algae bloom, which leaves green, slimy film on the water. This results in low oxygen levels, killing the aquatic life, and can also release toxins into the water that are harmful to land-dwelling animals. Wetlands trap these toxins or convert them into less harmful chemicals and create cleaner water for the lakes and streams it flows into.
Wetlands also serve as flood protection by holding excess water and releasing it slowly. The plants that grow in the wetland can also serve to disrupt the flow of the water, serving as a shore stabilizer between the water and the land. Wetlands retain water and slowly seep it into the ground, where it is purified and finds its way to reservoirs. This provides stabilization to groundwater and aquifers during low precipitation periods.
Nature's appeal is not lost on humans, and the wetlands provide an ideal opportunity to experience it. The wildlife that thrives in the wetlands provides opportunities for wildlife photography and birdwatching, as well as educational programs. If the wetlands are for any reason removed, they can be expensive to compensate for. The resulting costs to build flood protection and water purification plants to replace the wetlands tremendously exceed the cost of buying and preserving those that are already there, and is much more harmful to the ecosystem. Any damage to the wetlands can also deprive the community of commercial fishing opportunities.
The wetlands are an essential ecosystem that is disappearing at an alarming rate, taking many unique species with it. Many of the plants, insects, and small animals that provide the foundation for numerous food chains are linked to the wetlands at some point in their life cycle.
Unfortunately, non-native plants like purple loosestrife take the space previously occupied by native plants that were part of these food chains. First appearing in Michigan over 160 years ago, it has invaded wetlands in every state in the U.S. except Florida. The waterfowl that depend on the wetland plants for their food base avoid nesting in wetlands overrun with purple loosestrife, and native plants now fight for the space they need to survive and germinate. When a non-native plant, like purple loosestrife, is so dominant with so many negative impacts on the ecosystem, it is classified as an invasive species. This often results in extreme displacement of the species that are native to the ecosystem.
The spotted turtle, threatened in the state of Michigan, lives in bogs, eats the small animals and insects that lives there, and eventually reproduces there as well. Loss of wetlands has meant loss of habitat to this amphibian, and pollution of the waters in the wetlands can mean further disappearance in the future. The endangered Kirtland snake depends on the wetlands for its food source. It has become so rare in the state of Michigan that the DNR asks that sightings be reported immediately.
Both of these animals provide fundamental roles in wetland ecosystems, and both can be harmed by further damage to them. Even iconic animals like the bald eagle have suffered because of these wetland losses. From the early 1900s to the 1960s, their population went from prevalent to near extinction in the lower 48 states, largely because of the use of harmful pesticides in their habitats. By banning the use of pesticides like DDT and monitoring these birds in captivity and in the wild, they have achieved a lowered risk status.
These birds have made a comeback from the brink of extinction because people like us decided to do something different about their plight. By working together, we can make sure that the wetlands we depend on are here for generations to come. How can you help preserve the wetlands?
There are innumerable places for you to get involved with wetland preservation. Organizations like the Environmental Protection Agency operate at a national level, trying to pass legislation that further preserves our environment. At a state level, organizations like Michigan's Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council offer sources of information on native and invasive plants, as well as tips on responsible water usage. Around the corner, in nearly every community, are hard-working and beautiful local conservancies that protect these disappearing habitats and the wildlife that inhabit them. They also serve as learning centers for local schools and communities. Giving time, money, or even simply interest can aid in the preservation of our precious wetlands. So why is a swamp important?
You tell me.